Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar around how you can make thousands and generate thousands of pounds of profit per month from property. I'm going to share my screen in just a moment, but also if we could please type all questions into this box. You'll see that there. And please let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. I'm typing it in case you can't hear me loud and clear. Excellent. Okay, so I'm also going to share my screen, and you'll be able to see a presentation. Good. Please let me know if you can see the presentation as well as hear me. Okay. Good. So while we're waiting for others to join, we've had a busy day. We've been in Birmingham today. Excellent. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, others. We've been in Birmingham today seeing agents, and we viewed, just in the morning, we viewed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 properties. And we've offered on one, which is a very nice wow factor New York style warehouse apartment, 2 beds, 2 baths. And I was up there with an experienced student of mine and also a fairly new student, so up in Birmingham. So he's found his first deal. It's good because we already knew the agents and we knew the agents worked with us. And my experienced student, he's offering on, I think, an 8 block apartment as well. 8 in there, another one on 41 in the block up in Birmingham. If anyone knows Birmingham, or if anyone's from Birmingham or going out that area, it's an awesome area. And the regeneration, I haven't seen any regeneration like it in any other city in the last few years. So it's pushing hard. Obviously, something to do with it. Not so secret train line going up there. So let's get started. Good. Thank you, everyone. So what we're going to talk about today is cash flow from property, but generically cash flow from property, because we get cash flow from property in many, many forms. Some much lower than others, and some are much higher than others. Depends on how much work you want to do for the cash flow and how much you want to automate, etc. Whether you want to buy or whether you want to rent or whatever it might be. So your circumstances are all going to be different. But I'm going to tell you from my experience and from the experience of many of my students who are doing quite well now, what our take on this is. So this is not me just saying, look, this is what you need to do because we haven't done it. This is me sharing you with my experiences and our success, and where, you know, there may have been some pitfalls along the way, and we've learned from that, so we can pass these on to help you not get stuck into these pitfalls, obviously. So sometimes I swear, but I'm trying not to swear, but I get a bit passionate, so maybe mute if I get, I won't, because I know that people have children in the background sometimes, so I will keep calm. I'll say flip or flock or something, or poo. Anyway, let's have fun tonight. This is all about fun. Property is fun. Making money is so much fun. It reminds me of when I was talking to Emmanuel Ezekiel, my business partner, the other day, and he's very successful in property. And we were talking about how we train people and how, also, I was talking to my wife who's doing some personal trainer thing to get fitter. And I talk to my students about. I was talking a lot about it this week, in fact, and we had a trip in a helicopter to France. I've been off for 3 days and came back, and I was talking to Tim, who's another student, but he's also a helicopter pilot. And what it is once you start to do something, make a change, and that is lose weight, get fitter, make more money, do less work for it, quit your day job, whatever. Once you do something and you do it well and you start to see results, it then becomes addictive. When you make money, like I was talking to Tim, and Tim had a couple of properties at 3, 4. Now he's got 5. He's about to go and get 6. He's now able to give up the business that he hated, and now he's doing a business he loves. And we were laughing. We were sitting by the on Fleur. We were in France, and we were sitting by the water there, having a couple of drinks, and we're checking our phones and seeing our bookings come through and our income. And I looked at Tim and I said, "Come on, let's have a little bit of a competition. Let's see who can get the most bookings, so you can get the most revenue, etc." And he actually beat me in those 2 days, and it was good to see the look on his face. And he said to me, "This is addictive. Making money is addictive." And it was true passive income, because we're sitting, by the river, by the port, it was actually, in France, and earning money. And I said, "Look, you've paid for your trip 10 times over already." And, it's good to see a smile on students' faces. And I equally had the same sort of smile. So it's good. But, once you really do get something, and this is the thing that people get stuck with property. And I want to say this because I almost want to warn you away from property if you don't have the right mindset. And I know you don't hear this on courses, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because I don't want you to waste your time, your effort, etc. Because if you're not going to go out and take action, you're not going to get results, and you're not going to get addicted to this, and you're going to go stuff this, and you're going to waste a whole lot of money. So we don't want you doing that. What we want you to do is, educate yourself. That's fine. But the key is about taking action. But you need to know what action to take at what time and when and where, etc. So what we're going to talk about mainly is how you can get into properties that are worth, I don't know, an average of £600,000-700,000 a piece, and many over £1 million. Many of you who work in London, or your area would be London, you dream of buying £1 million house, etc. Well, we're going to show you how to get into these properties and get more income from that property than what the actual landlord would get from that property. So hopefully, that's something that's interesting to you. I know it is to me, and I'm very passionate about it. And we can show you how to get 2 of those, 1 of those, 10 of those, 20 of those, 30 of those, whatever you want. One of my students, Jimmy in London, sent me a text while I was in France, and sent me a load of photos. And he's now got property number 29, and he is officially 2 years this coming December into making money from property cash flow. And he's on about £47,000 per month profit. So doing quite well. So let's crack on. Now we've got a load of people on here. We can crack on and no more stories for now. So again, thanks for joining. You should be able to see my screen. Stay to the end of the webinar. It is recorded for you, but we've got a great offer on, and it's the first time that we're offering this as well. So yes, we do charge for courses. That's how we teach people, and that's how people become successful. And we don't make any bones about that. So yes, right. So who am I to sit here and give you advice on what you should be doing in the property? So I started in property in about 2006 with zero money. In fact, I was spending money I didn't have, so to speak, as we all have in the past. And I started doing what we call rent to rent as well. In 2013, I make about 25. It's probably a bit more than that. Probably about £27 per month from 25 properties. Some of those are joint venture with people. So the income is lower because half goes to some others, and they're students who are doing very well out of this as well. Started the hard way, got 1,000 no's, learned how to overcome all of these objections and win deals. And I still do this with my students. As I said, I was out in Birmingham today with 2 of those today. So it's helping those guys become successful. And we deal with loads of students. So we're dealing with loads of deals per week. It's probably more like 15 deals now per week. And as I said, many successful students, and I control multiple properties. We do developments. I always JV with people. I never do anything alone. And my business partner, thankfully, has the same mindset because I'd rather have a percentage of something than nothing of nothing. And I urge you to joint venture with people and make sure it's all done properly through solicitors and joint venture agreements and this type of thing. And it's very simplistic. We have solicitors who do that for us. So that's me. I know a fair bit about property. Whatever I don't know about property, I have lots of people who I work with, lots of friends, lots of joint ventures, and they're like family to me, and they probably do know the answer. So there's things that they come to me for that they don't know the answer to around cash flow, and vice versa. So it also opens up your knowledge bank, if you like, as well. So one thing that you would have had if you've been looking at different courses or trying to get into property, or worse, if you read the Telegraph, the Times, the Sun, the Mirror, any newspaper, as soon as they get a little sniff about property, they think, fantastic, we've got a headline. They use it pretty much like they do superstars and people like Weinstein, who are in the news at the moment. And anything that's good or bad in property, mostly bad, they'll hook onto it. So the best thing I can tell you with property is get stuck into it and forget about the noise, because the noise won't help you at all. So there's plenty of information overload out there. A lot of people saying different stuff, newspapers, also trainers say different stuff. And then you have your trolls and this type of thing. So like I said, forget the noise and just focus on what it is that you're doing. Strategy frustration is a massive thing that we have when people come to me. Or even they come to Emmanuel and say, look, we have a mastermind group that we run each month with some more advanced people who've got the cash flow and they've got money to invest. And they look at us with bewilderment and like bunnies in headlights, and it's like, what the heck do I do now, man? What do I do, guys? I've got this strategy being thrown at me. I've got HMOs, I've got microflats, I've got rent to rent, I've got service accommodation, I've got HMOs. I've got flips, I've got development, I've got commercial to resi and resi to resi, commercial to commercial. They get all mixed up. It's like, what do I do? And there's hundreds, and there's lease options, sandwich options, this option, that option, purchase options. And it's just too much. You really should have one clear strategy that you focus on for cash flow, maybe two once you have one up and running, so you can mix it up a bit. And then once you have your cash flow coming in, because most of you will need to leave your day job, so you don't want to be trying to do your day job and your cash flow and capital growth all at the same time, because the capital growth will be the harder one. The cash flow, believe it or not, is the easiest part of the property business. So what you'll need to do is you need to build up your cash flow, and doing that with joint venture partners, if you're working as well, is very, very simple, much easier, because if you have money and they have time, then you can mix together nicely. It can be 50-50, whatever you want, on profits. And we have a lot of people who do this, and it works for both sides. And then from there, you'll have enough money, whether that's $3,000 a month you need to cover yourself, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000, whatever it is. Then you build up your cash flow. Then from there, you start to work on any income that could be disposable after you've paid for your monthly, whatever it is. And don't forget, once you earn a bit more money, you'll start to spend a bit more money too. So you might need just an extra 20% disposable income, because your holidays, they go from Skegness to maybe Dubai or whatever, or wherever you fancy, or Thailand, or wherever you want to go, Spain. So sometimes your holidays get a little bit more expensive. You get a little bit better hotel. You start looking at your car. So think of this before you do that. The rich man's mindset, or rich woman's mindset, the rich person's mindset, shall we call it this, is you make money, number one. Number two, you keep your money. And number three, you invest the money that you keep. Now, this will be obviously your disposable income. Now, the poor person's mindset is they make money and they spend it. So they've never got any money working for them. So what I'm saying is, number one, before we go on, make your money. Spend what you need to spend on, your legitimate stuff like putting a roof over your head, a car to do what you've got to do, your food, your water, whatever it is, fuel in your cars, insurance, rent, mortgage, whatever it is. Get that covered and then start to work on how much disposable income you're going to need to be able to invest in your own properties. Or, like we do, get some of you pooled together, and that way you can buy better properties, more properties, instead of just dealing with one little bungalow or some snot like that, where you're not going to make a lot of money, and it's still going to take 9 to 12 months to see the whole project the way through. So you're better off, in my opinion, and giving you some advice here, is to get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of you pulled together. So if you've all got 20 grand, then all of a sudden you've got 100 grand, or you might have 150 grand, you might have 200 grand between you. Then you can start investing it. And then if you do it right, then you can take your money back out, remortgage, and you got the money back plus a little bit more. So that's the journey that you should be looking at. From day one, don't get into stuff like commercial to resi. It's a minefield. There's so much that you can get stuck into. I know people want to sell you courses and this type of thing, and it's great, but it's really something you need to get a bit more experienced at. Start with the air rifle. Don't go straight into elephant gun, trying to do all things bigger all at once. So from there, and the next thing, you get overwhelmed, and then what will happen is you will sit down and you'll say to yourself on a daily basis, and you'll beat yourself up, and you will say to yourself, in the next 12 months, I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve in property, because you're scattergun, you're everywhere. You must focus on one thing, get it done well, and then that will enable you to go to the next strategy. You can do some of it when you're full-time. You can do a bit of it, in parallel to each other. So you would have got good contacts with landlords and agents and that type of stuff, perhaps other joint venture partners, and you can start doing it. Put it this way, we first started doing training because we wanted to get more contacts in the industry, and it has served us well. It is absolutely brilliant. We get money kind of thrown at us, if you like. And then you'll hear too many stories, like I have pretty much covered that. And then from all of this, you don't take any action. And you put your head down in your hands, oh, bugger, why did I ever do this? And you might have spent, if you're lucky, only 400 or 500 quid on courses. Some people might have spent 4 or 5 grand. You might have spent 9 or 10 grand. You might have spent 20. You might have spent 50, which I've heard from some people, and they have absolutely nothing to show for it. Now, that's not saying that the course is wrong. What I'm saying is all of these things together, you get a little bit jarred off, and then you just give up, because what you should be looking at is not how far you've got to go, but look and see how far you've come, and make sure you just focus on one thing at a time. So, benefits of cash flow to you, what are they? You know what they are. I know what they are. But here's a reminder. From what we've just said, it will enable you to get enough money to pay your bills and replace the income that you currently have, that you in your day job, if you like. And job stands for JOB, or just over broke, as we like to say it. Because what you do is you have the poor man's mentality. You make the money, you spend it. You make the money, you spend it. Some of you, I know, will invest money. So we have people who have a day job and they prefer to stay in their day job. There's not many of them, but they prefer to stay in their job. They will invest in my students or invest in us, and they get a return back on their money. So the real benefits in cash flow, like I said at the start from Tim and I, is that we can go and sit on holiday on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and still make money. And it's a passive income, if you like. Yes, we've had to do work to get there, but this is a passive income, and we got other people helping us and checking in people and doing whatever and managing properties and that type of thing. So you also need to be able to leverage certain things either with other humans or with technology. Now, we quite often use what I call other people's property. So you'll hear a lot about opium as well. OP, small IU and a big M, other people's money. We call it opium. There's other people's money, there's other people's properties, there's other people's knowledge, other people's education, other people's whatever you want to leverage. So here we're using other people's properties, which means that, as I said, you might not be able to afford £1 million apartment or house. You might not, if you can't afford one, you probably can't afford 10 or 20 or 30, or like Jimmy's got 29 now. And I think the cheapest property that he works in valued at about £600,000 down Kentway and in London. So if you think about Jimmy and if his average is probably, I don't know, £800,000 of property, and if you times I don't know if you can do the numbers, but if you times that by 29, it's £23 million worth of property portfolio that he hasn't had to pay a penny for. And yet he pulls out on average about £46,000 per month on profit from these properties, which is way, way, way more, probably double or a bit more than what the actual owners will actually take out of these properties in their own rent. And they're also still paying the insurance on those properties, etc. They're still paying, in many cases, they're still paying the agents as well, agent fees. So it enables us to use other people's properties as well. You can use your own property if you want. You know, there's two main areas for cash flow, the highest cash flow. There are many areas for cash flow, but the two we're going to talk about tonight are the two key ones that will actually make you the most yield. So they are rent to rent. So rent to rent, as you will probably know, is renting a property from a landlord via an agent or direct, and then taking that property and then re-renting it out to either people who are young professionals and they work in the area, but they don't have enough money to buy a flat, a one-bed flat in some areas of London, so they have to share a room. And this could be in an HMO or a house in multiple occupancy. Or there is also service accommodation. Now, the difference is HMOs, we normally want a property that's a minimum of 4 or 5 rooms. And when we say a 4-bedroom property, we want to turn that into 5 or perhaps 6 over 2 levels. Now, there's a few rules and regulations around HMO licensing, that type of stuff, but we won't go into that tonight because we don't really have the time. And then there's service accommodation. Now, service accommodation is different in that you have short-term lets, whereas HMO is long-term lets, a minimum of 6 months, and we'll use ASTs on that, as short hold tenancies agreements. So with service accommodation, we'll use we don't use any ASTs. We basically advertise on different sites such as Booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia, TripAdvisor, Holiday Lets, and a whole load more. There's about 38 now, I think. So the key differences are for cash flow is that you get longer term tenants in an HMO, but you're dealing with a tenant and the rights under the Housing Act. If they don't pay, you've got to try and get rid of them. And if they refuse to pay, the council will actually say, look, you've got to stay there because if you leave, then we can't offer you emergency accommodation. So the council's kind of fighting against the landlords, if you like, in many cases. Now, that's a worst case scenario. In many cases, we never have any issues. And, you know, touch wood, my manager, Alan, he's absolutely brilliant. We very rarely have any voids on our HMOs. He always has them full because we're in an area for our HMOs. So I have three areas. I have one area that's for HMOs, and I've tried service accommodation there, but it worked, but it just wasn't enough for me. So in the area that I have my HMOs, it works quite well because there's lots of people who go there for work and they stay there short-term, nurses and this type of thing. And then a lot of them take off for the weekend actually and go back and see their parents or whatever it might be. And in service accommodation, I have an area that is both high in business, but it's more corporate business, suits and that type of thing. Think of that, white collar business, and also high in tourist as well. So we get the best of both worlds. And the reason that's good is because tourists likes to come on the weekends. And then during the week is when we get the corporate business guys come in. So we kind of have, it's kind of a split, if you like. If you know anything about rugby, you got your forward team and you got your back team. You got your forward half and your back half. And so I suppose if you can imagine the HMO is our front half, and then, corporate is our front half, and then our back are the tourists. So they're on the same team, and they're all going for the same thing. So that's how I look at it. So service accommodation generally has the highest profit. This is a bit more management to do, but you can also automate a fair bit more as well. And you don't have any tenant issues. This is the number one thing over HMOs, that you do not have any tenant issues. So that's some heads up on those two. So some of you may or you may not have money, so you will need to use other people's money. Now this scares the living daylights out of a lot of people, especially, and I would say 90% or more, it scares the living daylights out of when they first start in property, because they have this what we call money mindset. And your money mindset or your money blueprint in some cases is that you must never ever ask for money from anyone. But when you go to buy your car at Ford or Land Rover or wherever it might be, or Vauxhall or Fiat, whoever the car companies are, you probably don't go in with a load of money in your pocket and they say to you, are you going to do cash or finance? You go, I'm going to go finance. So you finance your car. Then you will go to buy a house and you will borrow money from the bank to buy that house in most cases. So your money blueprint in your mind is that, yes, you will take money from anyone who will throw it at you, but you're a little bit too worried to go and ask for it. Now, not a bad idea, not a bad mindset, because we never ask for money. In fact, when I was out with some of the guys in the helicopter on the last few days, there was people there who owned very successful businesses, and there was very successful helicopter pilots who fly for people like Tom Cruise and Christian Horner and these type of things, some famous guys. And they said to me, what do you do? I said, we help people invest in property. And they said, oh, that's interesting. How do you do that? Well, what we do is, we have guys where we earn cash flow, and we help other people get cash flow, and higher than any cash flow that you can expect from your own buy-to-lets. And we also help people, once they've got into this, we help them get into their own properties and basically leave no money left in, etc. So they can use the same pool of money over and over again. And they look at you and they sort of say, well, how does that work? Okay, well, I can tell you if you'd like to know. Are you really interested? Yes, I'm really interested. And then you tell them more about it. And then they kind of look at you strangely, and then they say, well, how can I get involved in this? And once they've done that and you've shown credibility, then you know that somebody is ready, is very interested in investing in you and the way that you do business, because they also want a piece of the pie. So if you can show true ROI and true return on investment, then you will always find money for any business, not just property. I'm talking any business. Think of Dragon's Den. You go on Dragon's Den and you might take a light, I don't know, a lighter or a pen. Take on a pen and they go, what's so good about your pen? Well, let me show you. This pen writes upside down. And they might say, well, so what? What do I need a pen that writes upside down for? And they might say, well, you might go to space one day. Well, I'm never going to go to space. But hey, I like the idea of the pen. How much money do you want? And that's a silly analogy. But they go on there and they make their decisions because, and if you look at it, it's the first thing that they do. The first thing that they look at and the first thing that they decide on whether they're going to do business with you or not is you watch them on Dragon's Den. As soon as that person walks in, they show the cameras on the dragons. They're looking that person up and down. They're looking them in the eyes. They want to see what type of person this is. Has this person got the poison to help us, drive a good business? And then they sit back and they listen to the spiel or the pitch or whatever it is. But first impressions, that's what they get. And then they start to think, okay, how does this person articulate what it is that they're trying to sell, what they want to pitch for, and how much money they want, etc. And are they afraid of actually asking for the money? And people come in there shaking like crazy. So you will only be able to use other people's money if you build their trust, you have integrity, and you have credibility. You can't just go out posting stuff, I want money, or walking into bloody property shows or whatever it is, and with a sign on a paper and that sort of stuff. It used to happen, but those days are gone. We're much more sophisticated than that now in the property world. I hope so anyway. I know there might still be some rogues out there. And always get everything done, heads of terms or put in an SPV, what we call a special purpose vehicle, and get shareholders agreements and that type of stuff. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and believe me, it'll help you sleep at night. So that's what we do. We use other people's money. It's quite simple to do. In fact, I think more than half of my students use other people's money to make money. Joint venture partners, pretty much the same thing, but joint venture partners may be somebody who don't actually give you a loan. And then you come into the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, and that type of thing. And there's different stuff about sophisticated investors, and there's minimums 100 grand and income and that type of thing. But we won't get into that. But just remember that before you go out and sort of start pitching for money. And we get declarations signed by them, etc. So anyway, so then you have joint venture partners. Now, joint venture partner, it may be somebody who actually just loans you the money for a percentage, and then you pay it back to them in a set amount of time, much like a bank or a Sainsbury's loan and that type of thing. And Sainsbury's loans on that, just on that, Tesco's and that type of thing, you can get about 20, 25 grand on about 3% at the moment. And a lot of my students have actually started off doing it that way. And it's very cheap money, and then you pay it back quickly. But where was I? Lost my train of thought. So yes, joint venture partners. So it may be that somebody comes along and they say, look, I've got a chunk of money, Ash, and we get this all the time. Who of your students, and I only recommend the ones that I mentor because I know that I'm actually ticking the boxes and making sure the properties are work, because if something messes up, then obviously you can understand all falls back on me. No matter what, blame Ash. So the joint venture partner may take 50-50 in you. So they're providing the money. They're also being a guarantor if you're out renting a property. And then you will do the work and you'll get 50%. Now, you might say, well, I'm making 2 grand a month, 3 grand a month, or £800 a month or whatever. I'm losing half of it. Well, hang on a minute. That half you wouldn't have had if you weren't here. Now, I couldn't do what I do with cash flow, with rent to rent, if it wasn't for the people who are managing the properties for me, because I seriously do not have the time. I just don't have the time. So I work with somebody else. So if I were doing it myself, I'd probably be making over 50 grand a month right now. But, I joint venture with other people so that, I do most of the work that can be done remotely via the computer, and they do all the stuff that needs to be done where there's a person that needs to be there up front. So it's a super quick setup. If we talk about service accommodation for a minute, and both of them are quite easy to set up, but we'll talk about service accommodation. So I've got a student, Nigel, who came to me, it'll be a year ago in November next month, and he did our course in service accommodation. Now, he'd been out doing courses and that type of thing and spent a few thousand, he won't mind me saying because he knows and he's honest about it, on other courses and mentors, and got absolutely nowhere. Came to me, and I kind of my favorite mute if you've got kids there, but my favorite word or acronym, if you like, is Goya, G-O-Y-A, which is get off your ass. So people who come to me, they must be prepared to get a kick in the butt, a virtual kick in the butt, if you like, because I'm going to come down on you. But if you don't respond, then I'm just going to go like, well, I'll move on to someone who's going to respond. So that's the way I work. I won't try too hard if you're not going to try, if you know what I mean. So we'll give you plenty of kickings, but that's as far as it goes. We're not going to flog a dead horse, so to speak. So Nigel and he started in he got his first property it was live in May this year, April or May, either way. It's about 6 months ago. And he went out and he did exactly what we said here. He found a joint venture partner who had money because he didn't have enough money. He had some money, but not enough to take on the 25 apartments that he decided to take on. He then sat down many meetings with his joint venture partner about the money. And then this person said, I'd like to invest. And then they other people invested, and they've just paid back their loan of about 40 or 50K within 6 months. And they're now looking to take on another 30 or 40 units. Now, all of this in under 12 months. And his turnover just hit £400,000. Now, how many businesses can you set up that quick, learn it? He knew nothing about service accommodation. He came to the course, he learned it. We gave him a few kicks in the butt, showed him what he needed to do. He went out and took action, as we said, remember the whole process. He took action, he got results. Now, the results are favorable because he worked really hard at it. Now, what is happening now? He's looking to expand that business because why? Because he is now addicted to the results. And this is the best business that he's ever had. It is unbelievable. So he's now looking to scale this right up. He's employing people. And, I'm very proud of Nigel, and he should be very proud of himself. He's done an extremely good job. But a business from learning it, let's say in a year, from learning to implementing in May, he's now hit £400,000. Now, he'll say to me, I wish I'd have taken on 50, but, and he might have doubled that. But, let's walk before we crawl and run, before we run, etc. So it is an extremely quick business to set up. We've just taken on another property in that area. I got an alert from Rightmove in my drawn area. There's a bit of a tip for you. And I said to Tony, who works for me in the area, works with me, not for me, works with me. And I said, what do you think of this? He said, great, I'll go and view it. He went and viewed it an hour later. He viewed 2 up there, and he said, look, the 17 is no good, but the 18 is no good, but the 17 is good. Let's go for it. So I said, no problem. I phoned up the agent. I said, Matt, we're ready to go. And he said, which one? I said, I think it's 17, not 18 or whatever it was. And he said, good, you don't want both of them. I said, no, I just want that one. He said, okay, I'll sort it out for you. You can have access and you can have the property from November the 4th or whatever it is, something like that. Done. And that's the relationship that we have with that agent. He knows exactly what we do. We've taken properties off him before. He knows exactly how we work, and just goes bang, bang, bang. And we are the one that he comes to first. And we've got 2 or 3 agents like that in our area. And this is what you need to build up. You need to build up, again, that credibility, because these guys are also your joint venture partners. You're not paying them, well, you kind of are, but you're not. People think that you're not joint venturing because you're not on the same bloody contract or whatever, but you will be when you do, a management agreement or something like that, or a company let. Then these are your joint venture partners, and we help them out, we look after them. Thanks very much. So don't underestimate leveraging the power of the agents. So fast turnover and profit, we just talked about that. 400 grand, his profit should be around about 35 to 40%. That's the average that we work on in service accommodation. That's before tax. So that's a pretty freaking good, profit, because the average out there is, if a company can get 20, 25%, they're over the moon. So there's Nigel, 400,000 in 6 months. Well done, Nigel. So who is this for? We've kind of already discussed that. It's not for the people who think that this is a get-rich-quick scheme. That ain't going to happen, because if you have that mentality, to me, 400 grand is not rich. That's not rich. And to you, it shouldn't be rich. And you don't have to be rich in money. You can be rich in health or rich in love or whatever it is that you prefer, whatever floats your boat. Thankfully, I'm happy and rich in health. I'm rich in love, and I'm doing okay on the money side as well. But I wouldn't consider 400 grand turnover in a year to be, you know, rich in any way, shape, or form. It's very, you know, you're well off, you're doing well, but if you want to really be what it is that you want to be, and in most cases that's people, they want the absolute freedom not to have to worry about money, then you're probably going to need a little bit more than that over the long term, you know, when we're talking about retirement and that type of thing. So, you know, it's not for you. If you want to get rich, go and buy a lotto ticket, because you've probably got a better chance with that mindset. If it's a get rich thing that you want, you're going to give up very quickly, because you'll notice that it's not get rich quick. It's get well off very quick. Yes, absolutely. You know, Tim's probably on about 7.5 grand now. He's got 5 properties in the last 4 months, I think it is. So he's doing very well, and you know, he's enjoying it, but he has greater aspirations for greater things, as do I. Because like I said, you get results, you get addictive, and you think, I can do that, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. And you just keep going on. And then you work with more and more people. And, you know, a lot of those people actually take all the risk, and you invest, or they invest in you, and vice versa. So it's for people who will take action and do take action. If that's not you, then I recommend that you get back into your office, and you sit there and you just take the nice, comfortable life. Hey, you may get made redundant, I don't know. But for most, you know, you got the comfortable life. It's you perceive it's risk-free. Obviously, it's not. That's probably the best place for you. If this is what you want to do and you have a true burning desire, then please stay on, because it gets much better. You must be passionate and driven to succeed. Now, a lot of this will come from a need or a want, not so much a want, but you need to be successful because there's things that you need to take care of, whether it's family, friends, yourself, brothers, sisters, you know, grandparents, 2 kids on the way, 3 kids on the way, 1 kid on the way, whatever it is. You know, there's things that you need to do to take action. And I can tell you this from experience, is if you don't look too far ahead and you just take care of now, when you're starting out in the property business, you'll get small wins. But those small wins at the start, you think, wow, I can do this. You know, it might be that you make a couple of grand or something. It might be that you make £500 or £600 a month from your first property. But I can tell you this, over a year, even if it's 500, we don't deal in that shit anyway. You know, we prefer 850 plus. You know, we work average 1,000 plus. So if you get 5 properties at £1,000 a month, you know, work that out over the year. That's £60,000 that you're getting, and this can be done so quickly, so quickly. I mean, look at the income from Nigel. Even if he's working on a third of that, you know, he's working on 120 grand already. If he stops now and doesn't take anything else on. That is huge income in the average world of working. You know, I don't know what the figures are, but I think it's like only the top 5% earn 100 grand or more. It might be less. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you do need that passion, you need that drive, and you need to make sure that you're not just scatter strategizing with everything. You need to focus on what it is you're doing, get those quick wins, and then the quick wins, then you'll get the other wins, and you'll be like, wow, this is great, it's awesome. You know, Priya said to me today, she's got her first booking, she's got 2 live now, and she was laughing, and you know, you could almost feel the pirate smile on her face, the big grin, the Jessia grin from ear to ear, like, this works. I said, well, no, I told you this, but no one really believes you until they do it. They take action, and then they start to win. She says, yes, this is awesome. So the framework, let's talk a bit about the framework. It's very basic framework that we work on. There are bits around it, but this is the very basic bits, what we call the ABC part. So step one, you need to assess your area, and your area, you must make sure it's going to work. If you are investing in other people and you don't have to be there, much like we do as well, then you can work on the best area that you know, you work out your due diligence, get someone else there on the ground to do the work. Because I can tell you this, here's a little tip for you, another tip. If you decide that your area is where you live because you're as lazy little shite and you don't want to go anywhere else, or you can't be bothered moving, you're not really that passionate about succeeding, then you decide that you're going to work in your area. And your area, you may take on some properties, not the best area. You might make £400 or £500 a month per property. To me, that is just cat's pee. You don't want that, because you're putting in the same amount of work for another property that might bring in 2.5, 3, 4, 5, 6 grand in some of our properties per month in that area over the summer. Now, again, you need to get away from this money blueprint rubbish that says that you can't spend money to make money, all this sort of crap, because it might cost you more money to get into the right area, but your return on investment will be so much quicker and so much bigger. You'll have, and you'll you know, like some students do, they say to themselves, why didn't I do what you said? Why didn't I take the 2? Why didn't I take the 3? Why didn't I take the 4? Why did I just trial this with one property? Because I said, because it's your money mindset, it's your money blueprint, and you need to change it. We talk about the rich person and the poor person's mindset. The poor person will invest in something and then panic and worry about if they're going to get their money back. The rich person's mindset is they see opportunity. They put their money in. They don't wait for it to work. They make it work. That's the difference. So you need to assess your area. Then you need to book viewings, whether you're going to buy the property or whether you're going to go and do rent to rent. And then you conduct the viewings. And we have a whole process of how we go. There's a whole psychology about how you do the viewings. Then we present offers, and there's a professional way of doing it, and then there's the dodgy way of doing it. The professional way gets you a lot more respect, and it will actually get you a lot more results. Then we sign an agreement if we're renting it for 3 years through an agent, or we can do it longer if we're doing direct. There's a small difference with paperwork and legalities, and why there's 3 years with agents and why there's not. And then if you're buying the property, obviously you can test it before by renting a property in the area. Then you think, right, this works really well. And if you're cash rich, and you can say, right, I'm going to go and buy a property or 2 or 3 properties in that area. But I suggest that if your strategy is to go and buy, just test it with a rent to rent first. Just make sure, you know, or 2 or 3 rent to rents. It's not going to hurt you. If it works, you keep them, and you're still making 2 or 3 grand a month from those 2 or 3 properties. So, and then, you know, from there you might say to the landlord, do you want to sell your property? Buy the property off them, the one that's working. We refresh the property if needed. The properties we take on, most have already been done anyway. But when we say refresh, it might mean that, you know, they've moved furniture, they've scuffed some of the walls up and down the stairs, or, you know, some of the tiles look a bit tired or something like that. So sometimes we'll do that, and we'll do it with the investment from the landlord as well. We'll never offer to pay for everything. It's all about negotiation. And then 10 years when we put guests in, or we put in the professional workers in the HMO, etc. But it's exactly the same process whether you're doing service accommodation or whether you're doing HMOs. When we're looking at assessing our micro area, there is a different calculator for each one, and there's slightly different properties that we use as well. So when we assess your gold mine area for service accommodation, you should have regular events happening in the area, and some tourist attraction and some business attractions. That is the ultimate area to have all of those things in. It must be in the center of a town or the city, or no more than a 10-minute walk away. I would also look at probably the 10 to 15-minute rule with an HMO as well. And the HMO, you know, if you're doing that and you have young people stay there, because ordinarily they are younger people, You need to have like clubs and pubs and restaurants. Well, not so much clubs, but pubs and restaurants, places to eat, shops close by, like a Tesco Extra or a Spar or a Co-op, that type of thing. So they've got quick, easy, simple access. Large business here, why we covered that. Suitable supply of properties, obviously. The suitable supply of guests or tenants, and you'll get that if you take care of number 1 and 2. 2 to 3 beds work best. 1 bed's in London as well. 1 bed's also work in high tourist areas for service accommodation. And you're looking at a minimum of 4 bed that you can turn into 5 or 6. We don't really go any higher than 6 if we can help it with HMOs, just because young professionals, they don't want to live in a house with 7 people, 8 people, etc. You know, it just becomes a bit too much. It really upsets the dynamics from our experience. You want a maximum of 6 people, really. The reason we have 2 or 3 beds in service accommodation more so, and is because we can get more people in them, and we charge extra per guest per night. 3 bed, we can get 8 up to 10 people in it, but there is restriction on how many people you put in. You're restricted by the amount of bathrooms that you have in that property. So, new, as I said, I was in Birmingham today, and we were going into a lot of properties that were having snagging done. So they were just basically finishing up, and they needed a clean up, and then we're in. We went into some that actually had a building site opposite them, but you know, it was good to see them. Refurb properties, old Victorian properties or Georgian properties, anything like that, that have been completely refurbed to an absolute modern state, really are, don't tell anyone, but they are our absolute favorite properties. Now, if you're doing service, oh, that wasn't a bell to say shit, you've told them something. If you go into serviced accommodation, here's a tip. Everyone wants to go in the big buildings with all the flats and apartments because they think serviced apartments, that's what they think. But it's not just service apartments. This is serviced accommodation. Now, in my area, a lot of people, tourists from overseas, especially Chinese, they like to visit here and they like to live like a local. And we get people from Japan, from Taiwan, from China, Hong Kong, all sorts of places where they predominantly live in high-rises and flats and apartments. Do you really think they want to come here and stay in the same? Sometimes they do, but they want much bigger ones. So they stay in the nice big ones. And you're going to need a minimum 2 beds to do this. Now, they'll also travel sometimes with a lot of kids or family, especially in the holiday times, and they want more room. And they actually want real beds, not just sofa beds for their kids and their family. So in our 3 beds that we have, we can sleep 8 people all in a bed, a real bed, not a sofa bed. And we charge a premium for them to do this. I'm talking 60 quid a night, extra per person. Some nights we're getting £600-700 per night in our properties, and they're staying for a week or more. This is how we can get up in the summer to 4, 5, 6 grand a month. Now, there's another thing with serviced accommodation, which we call seasonality. Now, seasonality, you would say to yourself, September and October, especially October now, clocks go back, all this sort of stuff, it slows down. Well, I can tell you another little thing. In July, we had a fantastic month, and you'd expect to, right? We had a good month in June, we had a good month in July, we had a good month in August, we had a good month in May, etc. But our highest month to date was July. And now in October, we've surpassed that already, and we're not even halfway through, by about 3 grand. And we're working on about 75% occupancy. So we have a lot more because we put the prices up. So we have a lot more to come. So October, this goes against the grain of what everyone thinks out there, because most people, what they think is not with experience. So I'm telling you now from experience, and this is not just me, we're talking other people, other students, we're noticing that October is an awesome month. So come next year, you'll say to yourself, let's put the prices up a little bit more for October, because we know that the business is going to be there. Now, November may lag a little bit, and it is a little bit at the moment, because December then ramping up again. Now, December, people go to all these areas. They go to Christmas markets. They travel in from overseas. They want to be here for English Christmas, blah, 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 blah. And I can tell you this, the Chinese are flocking into the tourist attractions in December. Don't tell anyone. So that's experience. JV partner, you can work anywhere, as we said. Agreements. A management agreement, that's a small part of a management agreement. These are a bit of the rules and regulations. This is a boring bit, but you still have to have this bit. So management agreement, we've got all these done for you. So we've had solicitors check these over, and we've actually had this checked over and done by a solicitor who actually also runs rent-to-rent businesses. We've got one for HMOs and we've got one for service accommodation. So these are some of the websites we use for tenants and guests. Spare Room and Easy Roommate are the two key sites that we use to fill out HMOs. And then we have Booking.com, Airbnb, Trivago, TripAdvisor, Expedia, etc., etc., etc. There's a load more, but I don't want to put too many on there. Now, the reason I put these ones on there is to give you a few tips as well. So, no problem, Charles. We'll sort it for you at the end. It won't be long. Airbnb and Booking.com. Airbnb, when you first start out, Airbnb will be the one that you get your bookings from, because Booking.com takes a little while to ramp up. You need to get 5 listings in there. You know, sometimes we go for the higher commissions that you can do in Booking.com. Say you get in further at the top, you get closer. You know, so you have to give a little bit away to get in, etc. So that's a few tips there. There's a lot more. So you must get the look. If you deliver rubbish service, you'll get rubbish guests. You must deliver value for money. You must walk around the area to experience it. Just don't look at it on the internet. You know, because if your property looks rubbish, you'll get rubbish in, and then you'll get issues with rubbish tenants or rubbish guests. You must adjust to suit the area and what guests you want to attract, high level, low level, whether it's going to be contractors or tourists or corporate or blue collar or whatever it might be. The furniture must be of a high standard, not substandard crap. There was a really well-known provider that we're using, but for some reason they've just dropped their standards. I don't know if they've what they're doing, etc. But they've let the standards go, so we've let them go, and they don't. I think they've got too much of a workload. And remember, this is the accommodation or service industry, and we must provide, you know, suitable accommodation, comfortable accommodation, whether it's HMOs or whether it's service accommodation, because these guys will put reviews on Booking. They'll put reviews all over the place about you. So Fusion Furniture, IKEA, etc. These are some of the properties, how we dress them up. We provide everything, toasters, cups, saucers, the works. So we make some of the beds now, put flowers in for Mother's Day, gated development, now taking over the second one there as well. Must have nice cafes nearby. You can see that one. You got the Hive right next door. It's a very well-known cafe in the area. There's a period home there as well, you can see, and that's one of our highest profitable businesses. So one clear path, one clear framework is what we provide. How much is realistic? So we probably have, for those who need to get going, we probably have about 10 minutes left at the max before questions. So you should be able to generate in your first 1 to 3 months, 3 deals at a minimum of £850 per month. Minimum. So that will give you an extra 2.5 grand a month in your kitty, or 30 grand a year. Now, this is very, very average. You can achieve much more than this, but let's be realistic for the average person. And believe me, the average person even makes more than that. But let's lowball it for now. There are people out there who will teach you, say, to go for properties for £500 a piece. Don't waste your time. So how long would you have to work? Obviously, for an extra 30 grand from a year from your boss. As I said, deals can be so much bigger. You get massive profits into the multi-thousands of pounds a month. As I said, from our properties in our area, we're getting up to 6,000. Well, we had up to 6,000. We are now in this month again in October. That's profit. You can generate way over 5 grand here. It might average out to 2 grand a year if you have the quiet months like January and that type of thing. But already we're now gearing up and we're getting loads of bookings for January. So we're going to have a great one. So we'll teach you the strategy, and then all you have to do is execute it. Execution means you're getting off your ass and you're taking action. And I can guarantee you that if you continue and you do not give up and you're continuously doing this, you will be successful. Guarantee you. And as I said, the information alone won't get you what you need. You need to take action. Why do I harp on about it? Because if you're going to sit, you guys are here now, fantastic. You're not watching EastEnders. You're not watching Coronation Street. I hope you're not while you're doing this. So you're taking action. You're doing the right thing. So what would you do if you didn't have to earn the money every day? Because this is what will happen. This is how it will turn around, is that this will turn into a passive income for you so that you don't actually have to do a lot to earn the money. So it's almost like you're turning yourself opposite on its head. Income coming in no matter what you do. And, I spoke about the trip that we had to France. Tim and I there have a little bit of competition, what's coming in, etc. I didn't show my other forms of income because that would have killed me. So this is your business, and you must treat it like a business. You must work on the business, not in the business. If you work in the business, it will be very hard to scale up. You can ramp up quickly. You can seek help from proven experts such as myself or many of our students now. You join our private group for ongoing support. We give that to you as part of this. You must take action every single day, every day. Even if it's doing one little thing, please do something every day. So we don't relax. We're always on it. Entrepreneurs are always looking for an opportunity. And even if it's just you're looking for an extra property, you're always on it. You got your Rightmove set up, you got your Zoopla set up, you've got Open Rent set up, and all these other things. You're just getting pinged all day about properties. You won't get every single property because you'll start to get a bit picky. So entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. Great saying. I love it. So what will you get from me? So we wrote a manual on rent to rent. And you'll basically get all you need to know from start to finish and how to manage your business. It's all in a point form. You get a masterclass day, and you get all the exercises that we do. The reason we do the exercises on the day, you don't have to do them, but I urge you to do them, is so that you can then understand and experience what it's like to actually get stuck in and do what we do on a day-to-day basis. Essential documents that you need for service accommodation. We also give you the essential documents that you need for the HMOs, the rent-to-rent HMOs as well. All the legal contracts you need from our solicitor are written by our solicitor. It's not some shit that we've copied like some people do. I'm sure ours have been copied many times. Joint venture partners, you may even meet them on the day. If you don't, we put you in touch with many people on the same group, especially mentor to mentee to mentee, if you like. We're quite energetic in our training. There's some of you on here that have been in our training. I'm sure you will agree. Which means that you'll retain a lot more, and that's why we do the exercises as well. Helps you retain more, and we don't want you falling asleep. Full follow-up support from me personally on the Facebook group. This includes both rent-to-rent HMOs and rent-to-rent service accommodation, and also we're happy to share our expertise in development and that type of thing as well, when and if needed. So this is part of the support group here. That's just a screenshot. It's Ashley Banfield, cash flow from property. Please don't try to join it now because it's only the people who've done the course who are allowed on there. And yes, so there's some interesting stuff from Nigel there, actually. And you can see everyone gets stuck in and helps. We give you the systems for automation on both rent-to-rent HMOs and service accommodation. And we're going to give you a special offer today. Now, we haven't offered this offer before. So the manual, the full service accommodation mastermind class, and we're also going to give you the rent-to-rent HMO day. So it's 2 days back to back. All forms, all the contracts, as we said. It's cost us a bit for bloody solicitors, but that's the way it goes. Full lifetime support, well, as long as I'm alive. Well, you can probably still go on while I'm not there. Service the SA extensive calculator, and also in this case, you're going to get the HMO one as well. You're going to get everything you get. You basically get added to 2 drop boxes, one for the HMOs and one for the service accommodation. All the scripts for the agents, all the scripts for landlords, whether it's HMO or SA, and they're very different. Plus a load more, all included. Total, it's way more than that because now we're offering both courses, so you could double that. 100% money back guarantee. So basically, if you're there in the morning, either one of the days, and you think this is not for me, clear off, we'll give you money back. No problem. Also, what we're going to do is if you purchase today, or if you purchase in the morning, we're not going to hold you to your sheep stations. We will actually let you bring another person at no charge whatsoever. That's to both days if you want both days. The investment today is $497 for 2 people. If you get the other person to pay, you can now see it's $248.50 per person to pay. But that's spread over 2 days. So again, this is the only time we're going to do it because as of November, we won't be doing it. We're only doing it this month in October. I was going to continue to do it, but things are happening, so we're not able to do that. So it's only for October you're going to do it. And you might be the next person who makes $5,641 per month in just 5 months. And that's one student, Harvey Singh, who did that in his area. He actually stopped after month 5 because he's moving to Australia. But he now has that income coming in. He's going to pay someone to manage it, someone else to expand it while he's out there. But it gives him an income to be able to emigrate. So how to invest. If you look on your screen, you will see something that pops up and it says property cash flow, 2-for-1 special offer, invest in your future. Click in the green button, I think it's blue. Click in there, you can pay now. And that will actually get you both courses. Please let me know the name of the person that you're going to bring. And we can organize food and that type of thing. You've got allergies also, let me know. So you can use PayPal, use credit cards, etc. Just click on that link and come along. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you already. I can see a couple of you have booked, so welcome. If you just want only the service accommodation day, you can just come on the service accommodation day. So the next service accommodation day is the 28th. The HMO day runs on the 27th. So it's the Friday and the Saturday. If you want both days, let me know. If you only want one day, let me know. The price is still the same. So you won't get half price because you don't come to one or the other. Basically, you're getting one of those days for free. So that's the best that we can do at the moment. It's absolutely the best deal in the entire industry. If you want to join us on Facebook, please do. Facebook.com/Wealth and Success Academy. We're always sharing lots of motivation, always sharing webinar details, lots of information. If you come on a course, obviously you'll be on the group as well. We also have another group that we have just for serviced accommodation, which if you're not a member, you can join. And that is a public group, and that is called Serviced Accommodation Using Rent to Rent. And you basically just go on there and join. Cool. Any questions we'll take now? Okay, so I have 2 people that I would like to bring with me. Wow, isn't that nice? Would it still be the same price? I'll tell you what, you can have it the same price, but the third person will need to bring along £100 cash with them, and they must be attending with you. Basically, it just takes care of our costs. I'm happy to do that for you, no problem. Yes, it can come on both days. Yes, we do to give you lunch as well. Yes, teas, coffees, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, good. Good. What would you recommend, HMO or SA? To be fair, it depends on the area. It comes down to area for me. Some areas I would never work service accommodation. Some areas I would never work HMO. Some areas service accommodation is absolutely amazing. Some areas HMO is better, and vice versa. So it all comes down to the due diligence and how the area pans out numbers wise. Property is about 2 things: people and numbers. If you don't get on with people and the numbers are not right, you're stuck. You don't have to be like a super outgoing person, but you might have to act sometimes if you're going to be dealing with people. What do you mean by people? Okay, I'll tell you. Right. So if I decided today, right, that's it, I'm a hermit, but I want to go and buy a house, I'm either have to go and to get somebody else to go and do it for me, or I'm going to have to go and do it. Now, if I go and do it, I'm going to have to go and, number one, probably view a property, and I'm going to have to go there with an agent. I'm then going to have to get finance. I might have to walk into a bank or go and see mum and dad or whatever you do, however you get finance. You're going to have to go and see someone. Then you're going to need a solicitor. Then you're probably going to need an accountant. Then you might need a builder if you're going to do work. Anything that happens in property, there are people related. And if you want an investment property, you're going to have to deal with people as well, as in tenants, that type of thing. So I think that is the end of the slideshow. So we'll come back to you. We'll stop sharing so you can see my lovely face again. No jokes, thank you. Good, okay. I'm full-time in my job. Does the JV thing really work? No, I was lying. It doesn't work at all. Yes, of course it works. It's absolutely brilliant. But you, again, must click with that person. You don't want to just go into the first person that comes along. Unless you're lucky and that first person, works really well with you and that type of thing. So, good. So, yes, it works really well. But, again, it depends on the area where you want to work. If you want to be the person who puts in the money, if you want to be the person who does the legwork, etc., that type of thing. So I've got students who I taught 3 years ago who are still working together and working really well. There are some that don't, but the majority of them still work together, and they're doing well. So good. Thank you too. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Where is it held and what dates? So if you click, don't be afraid of clicking on the button. All the information will be on there before you buy. But basically, it's at the Marriott Hotel in Peterborough, which is just off the A1. You can catch a train. It's one stop from King's Cross, or you can get a cheaper train that takes about 10 minutes longer and stops at a couple of 2 or 3 different other places. The dates, the next one is on the 27th of October and the 28th. Let me check. Yeah, so it's the Friday and the Saturday. Very good. But this will be the only one where we do the back-to-back HMOs and the SA, the service accommodation. If I had that opportunity when I was starting, and it's not me trying to sell to you, but I would have snapped at it because it's brilliant. Because sometimes what will happen is you will get to you know, you might get into your area, and you might be one of these people who say, look, I'm definitely not going to move out of my area. I can't move out of my area because loved ones or whatever it might be. And we've had people who have sick relatives in the end, they can't leave the area. So, and it may be that HMO works better than SA, or SA works better than HMO. So it gives you the best of both worlds. It lets you make that choice. I hope that answers your question there. Good. No problem. Excellent. Good. I don't want to read out all the thank yous to you, but thank you to everyone who's said. No problem. Thank you. Good. How long after the course does it take to get started? I think that's started. It says stated, but I'm guessing you mean started. How does it take after the course to get started? Well, that completely comes down to you. So you will finish Saturday around about 5:30, 6 o'clock, depending on questions. And then some of you are taking an hour to get home. Some people half an hour, some people 2 hours, some people they go home the next day. So it's completely up to you when you want to get started. You can get started as soon as you get home. You can start, scanning the area. We do actually start in the room. We get you started anyway. We get you started, and that's why we ask you to bring your phones or your PC. It's better to bring a laptop because it's much easier to work and that type of thing. So, yeah, it's completely up to you. Okay, that's no problem. So I've just booked on PayPal, but it doesn't say for 2 people. I want to bring my wife with me. It also says it starts on the 28th instead of the 27th. Okay, so the booking system won't book for 2 people. It will book for 1, but I can guarantee you that you can bring 2. All you have to do is give me your partner's name, and I will book her in. And the actual date is the Friday, the 27th and the 28th. I'll let you know. I'll change that. But it's definitely the 27th and 28th. So good. So if you could just email me your partner's name, that's great. That will be good. Okay, unless there's any other questions. We got a bit over, but I could have kept going all night, but that's what the class is for. So for those who booked, thanks very much. I look forward to seeing you. It will be a great day. It will be a great 2 days. And we have a bit of fun as well. We have a good laugh. Thanks, Charles. That's great. I'll put it down. You don't need to send me an email now. That's all I need. Thank you. Same name as my wife. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you all. There is a recording if you want to listen to it again or watch it as well. It will come out to you in the morning, and you can refresh yourself, etc. You'll be able to book on if you need to book on, for those who haven't or may need to speak to the boss, etc. Bring the boss if you like. So thank you very much. Been a pleasure. Thank you too. Yes, thank you. It's my pleasure too. And we look forward to seeing you on the 27th, 28th. Have a great time. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.